Meanwhile, you're always about women's business, always talking about the sisters, always talking to the sisters. They've got mahrams, they've got walis, they've got their guardians, and it isn't you. I mean, I hate to use their terminology, but this is about the most beta thing you can possibly do. Always in the women's section. And the irony is that these are the same ones who are endlessly droning on and on about masculinity. Meanwhile, you can't do the basic thing, the most basic thing that men do as men, which is to ignore women. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean that in an obnoxious way, but women have their world, their sphere, and men have their world and their sphere. But meanwhile, you're always trying to weasel your way into the sphere of women, under the guise of nasiha, under the guise of advice. But you're just like a peeping Tom who's trying to justify why he's doing what he's doing by saying that you're just trying to check up on the sisters to make sure that they're safe. No, it's not your business. The men are over here, brother. Meanwhile, you keep sliding your way back to where the sisters are. And this is very disrespectful. It's very insulting to their walis. I mean, let's take this offline, Let me catch you on the street talking to my wife or talking to my sisters about how they shouldn't go out, or they shouldn't go to the gym, or they shouldn't go to school, or you don't like the way they're dressed, or what have you. I wish you would. You better hope that that red pill you took is a painkiller, because you're going to be dancing cheek to cheek with the concrete here.
Get your life, baby. I got mine, why you could serve my mind, baby. Feeling me, that's why they killing me, lately. Get your life. Get your life, get your life, get your life, baby. I got mine, why you could serve my mind, baby. Feeling me, that's why they killing me, lately. Get your life. Run up when you see me, no disguises. Keep that thing with me, cause I don't do surprises. J. Chanel, show and tell, all facts, no lies, streak. Get your life, cause I'm the type to come to it that 9 quick. Eyes on me, what you care for? Watching me, baby, care for. If you ain't a fan, where the cameras? Hide in the back with the bellboys. My circle so restricted. Hands raised like it's your religion. When I sleep, pay close attention. Fake friends out here pretending. Get your life, get your life, get your life, baby. I got mine, why you could serve my mind, baby. Feeling me, that's why they killing me, lately. Get your life. Get your life, get your life, get your life, baby. I got mine, why you could serve my mind, baby. Feeling me, that's why they killing me, lately. Get your life.
Focus there.
Watch them cause they after me like a pot of gold. I'm not for play, ask Keisha if you don't know. I'm a little bit cray-cray, approach me, you better be right. If you don't come correctly, you can catch these cans tonight. Eyes on me, what you care for? Watching me, baby, care for. If you ain't a fan, where the cameras? Hide in the back with the bellboys. My circle's so restricted. Hands raised like it's your religion. When I sleep, pay close attention. Fake friends out here pretending. Get your life, get your life, get your life, baby. I got mine, why you could serve my mind, baby. Feeling me, that's why they killing me, lately. Get your life.
Get your life.
Get your life, get your life, get your life, baby. I got mine, why you could serve my mind, baby. Feeling me, that's why they killing me, lately. Get your life.
Get your life, boo.
Good morning, good evening, good night, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. Give me a 1 or a 2 down there in the chat room if you folks can hear me. Give me a 1 or a 2. Hey there, APTV. How you doing, good brother? Just as Shar, how you doing? Tyler Raylar, how you doing? Thank you so very much. Got that 1 or the 2. Thank you very much. A 1 and a 2. Again, happy Thanksgiving to all you folks that celebrated. Y'all see what's on the screen right there. The Chop reviews. BGS Idmore. Number 275, the sacrifice of black male bodies. And he hashtag Dr. Tommy Curry. Well, might as well go ahead and what's up there, Luke? How you doing? How you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. For some of you folks I've never seen before, thank you so very much. If you join on the vertical or if you're down in the horizontal, thank you so very much. I'll chop it up with you folks. We're gonna listen to as they call him, the master teacher. Hey there, I am my grandmother's rebellion. How you doing? The master teacher, as they call him. I don't know why. You know, again, folks, I've never been to college, but I do consider myself an educated man, right? So I can sniff out bullshit. It doesn't take very long to sniff out a bullshit artist, and I can tell you without unequivocation that BGS is a bullshit artist. That's just bottom line to it. What's up there, Luke? How you doing? Welcome in. That's just how I got to see this man. He's supposed to be an elder in the community. He's supposed to be guiding, younger people on the principles of what was and what is and what might be. I see a lot of not testosterone. That's not testosterone, but a lot of estrogen over in that space. PhDs, he says he surrounds himself by. That's what I mean. PhD level is high over there with estrogen, not testosterone. Grown men, PhDs, that could be doing so much more with their educational levels. Always run around talking about the gynocracy and how black women have ruined it, how black women of this or black women of that. Well, y'all see right there on the screen. Look at that little tidbit that I put out there for you. 6.7% to 7.5% unemployment rate in the black female household. Now let's do the math right quick. Like, if you don't believe me, go to the CDC or anyone else, any place else. What's up there, Black and Proud? How you doing? You go any place else and do the math for yourself. For every 100 women, there's 88 black men. So let's go ahead and do a lineup right quick. Like, as you hear BGS and all these other so-called PhDs saying, every black man should have a black wife. Umar Johnson talking about black women never, snow bunnies never. Hey there, Miss Jalen. How you doing? How you doing? I see you down there. I see you. I see you. There you go. You popped in. I know I didn't see you earlier, but I see you now. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. How you doing? But look. Do the math. Now let's go ahead and start doing the math. There's 88 and 88 is what? Do you believe 166? There's 100 black women. So let's do that twice. That's now 200 black women and 166 black men. The line gets a little longer. How many more black women are going to be without a mate according to the way them niggas think? Do the math again, triple it, then quadruple it. According to them, all these black women that are going to be without black men, do the math. What are they supposed to do? Are they not supposed to be able to experience marriage and children? Are they not supposed to do that? Because according to BGS, and what you're going to hear here in a little bit, all the ills of black men. Now, Let me move this off the screen. This is the next thing before we get to it. I want y'all to look to the right, and I want you to look at BGS's thumbnail. Let's pick it apart here right quickly. You got a black man in the middle being tortured by flame. You got his arch enemies. You got the Klan. You got the police. You got the white women. But what stands out more than anything else there, folks? A black woman with a college or high school graduation thing on. So what BGS is saying in this thumbnail, whether it's subliminal or not, what he's saying is one of the biggest threats to black men are educated black women. That's what BGS is saying. In that thumbnail alone, you don't have to go into you don't have to listen to it. That thumbnail alone says that all I needed to know about them guys over there. But since I was asked to review it and give you my comments on it, I figure I might as well share it with you folks. Let me go and pull this up right quick, remove this from the screen. And as always, you know, BGS, if you should happen to pop up in the cloud somewhere, and if you want to come and defend some of this, by all means, let me know. I'll give you the raw treatment, just like I gave Sotomayor when he came over here. I will say this is this backing track that you're using, BGS. I'll give you that. That's pretty good. That's one thing I will say about you. Always trying to find the light in the silver light in the silver lining in the dark cloud. Shar taught me that sometime. But anyway, let's move on here. Let's get to. I guess
I want to see if he can ball out. I can say one thing about Shedeur Sanders. Okay, you can't say you didn't get no chance. Okay. I won't hear none of that shit no more. Oh, they railroaded him. Oh, they blackballed him. He's played 2 games. Okay, he's got 1 full start. Okay, 1 full start. Okay, they can't say squat. Okay, either you ball out or you don't.
Now, I want y'all to understand who he's talking about. For those of you that follow football, I really haven't watched a football game since the Colin Kaepernick situation. But here's this supposed to be a black man that's uplifting the community. And here he is tearing down a Shedeur Sanders, just like the rest of them folks is doing. Instead of uplifting the legacy of the greatness of Deion Sanders as he passed on to his son, you're just like the Jason Whitlocks of the world, BGS. You're trying to find any way or anything to knock somebody that's doing better than you. Where your kids at? What your kids doing? How great are they? Can anybody report on your children? Did any of your children throw a 60-some yard pass in the NFL? Did any of your children change the trajectory of an entire college program? Did your daddy change the trajectory of the NFL? This nigga right here. Let's move on.
It might be restaurant quality chef, but they could put together a meal,
etc. to dissipate of black men.
Let me back up here. Okay, here we go.
Let me go ahead and start. This is Terrain Walker, so you know, a blackmail study session, episode 5. Okay, I think we did 2 of them, and go support him because Dr. Curry, evidently Dr. Curry trusts him because Dr. Curry doesn't come on very much on YouTube, okay, or social media very much. So evidently, if Dr. Curry is gonna make a regular series with Terrain, that means he trusts him. So we got one more PhD halfway in the buildings. Okay, so go support him and support their efforts. So here we go.
Now, but before I have a question for you, BGS. Are you a PhD, or do you just surround yourself with PhDs? Or do you have a PhD from some college? And if it is, what is it? Have you ever put on a cap and gown from any known institution? I'm just curious. If you did graduate from college, I'm not saying that you did or didn't, but do you have, what is your PhD in? Or do you just surround yourself with PhDs? What's up there, Sock Passe? How you doing? Happy holidays to you, good brother.
Professor Tommy J. Curry, PhD, MPH, Personal Chair of Africana Philosophy and Blackmail Studies, Department of Philosophy at the University of Edinburgh School of Philosophy, Psychology, and Language Sciences. He is the editor of Blackmail Studies, a series exploring the paradoxes of racially subjugated males, the editor of Decolonial Philosophy and Philosophy Compass, and most of you know him as the author of The Man Not, Race, Class, Genre, and the Dilemmas of Black Manhood, the winner of the 2018 American Book Award. Dr. Curry, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to have this conversation. It's always a pleasure to be able to chop it up with you on these subjects. So let's get into it. You said that this young man's tragic death is a harbinger of things that have connotations going all the way back to the beginning of this country when it comes to black men and black male bodies. Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by that and how that streaks back?
Yeah. Let me just say that this news hit me a little hard. I mean, for over a month, I've really been thinking about Mr. Reed's death, because back in the late 90s, the first year I went off to college, a black man was lynched not too far from my hometown of Lake Charles in Jasper, Texas. James Byrd was walking home from a party. 3 white men tied his ankles to the back of a truck.
Oh, yeah.
And dragged this black man
until his body broke apart. Yep.
And until his limbs were falling off. The imagery of black men being killed and dismembered does not truly convey the kind of horror and anger that happens to Southern poor black people when they see another lynching. And I remember it so clearly, the death of Mr. Byrd, because I had just come back from college, and literally 2 weeks, it was in June or July, I think it was in June. And we heard about this brother being dragged, so his hands and part of his neck was torn off. And ever since I was in the university and been in the university, I've been haunted by the kind of violence that black men and boys suffer. When we look, it's not just when we go back to the Middle Passage, because
you notice in the thumbnail, basically there's educated Keisha and Becky right next to him, right? Okay. The educated Keisha's right along with him, holding the torch.
All right. Let me take this off the screen right quick, like that, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on just a second. I want to visit this James Byrd before we go any further. All right, there we go, right there. Now, again, folks, you have to pay attention to what people say. This man said he just graduated from college, right? First, he said he graduated in the late 90s or something like that. Okay, whoever this guy is, this guy that's talking right now. Okay. Now, if you look at this, what I'm saying on the screen here, James Byrd was 49 years old. On June 7th, 1998, he was brutally lynched by 3 white supremacists in the hometown of Jasper, Texas. The assailant had injured, lured Byrd to whatever. We all know this. This made national news. So, but I bring this up for a reason. And someone said it down in the chat room. You're going to hear these guys a little bit later on saying that white supremacy is not as prevalent as it used to be. You're going to hear BGS say that. I can guarantee you can tell the family of James Byrd Jr. won't agree with that. The savagery of what these men and I can say, unfortunately, they were put to death for what they did to this man. The savagery. Remember, this was in the 90s. They drugged this man, and if you read the report, part of it, he was alive until his head literally and his arm was literally severed. So he endured this dragging for a while until he hit a tunnel, the edge of a tunnel, how you go into it, and that's what finally did him in. And white America always like to talk Emmett Till, but the list goes on. I have a personal story that when I was 7 years old, I lost a friend of mine to this type of violence. Explain to a 7-year-old that why his friend is not coming back to school, or explain to a classroom full of 7-year-olds why their friend is not coming back to school anymore. Because they find him in a ditch with his hands tied to a bicycle tire, mutilated. Because this black child was out a little bit after dark. But you're going to hear these PhDs say this is the fault of black women. Instead of putting it squarely where it belongs, to the folks that do it.
What often happens, and I feel that I'm becoming more and more impatient about this tendency. In the academy, we have scholars who try to disown or reappropriate the violence that black men have experienced as a general racial phenomenon.
Yeah.
So they will use literal.
Yeah, Dr. Johnson calls it flat blackness. Okay, when it's our fault, it's a you. When it's they want to appropriate our struggle, it's a we. Okay, it's always a we when there's money involved.
Criticism.
Okay, did y'all hear that? It's always a we. Which part of BGS or any of your supporters? Which part of the what word can I use to bring it home? The unaliving, the torture, the mayhem, the graping of our people. Why can't black women use we? Which part of that were they excluded from? Or maybe you haven't seen the pictures of the young pregnant black woman that was hung from a tree while she was pregnant, damn near about to give birth. Before they hung her, they split her stomach open. And when the baby dropped out of her stomach, they stumped it like it was just nothing. So which part of this, or how about the medical experiments, BGS, and you other folks over there, that was done to black women, that there's no black man that could ever experience that pain? Or BGS, how about the breeding farms that black women were subjugated to? Because you might be a stud for a little while, but guess what? After the age of 16, you wasn't a stud no more. But these black women was in these breeding farms up until their 30s and however long they lived, getting impregnated by any and everybody. They weren't humans. They were just considered property. They were breeding black women like they were breeding cattle. This is historical information that any of you folks that follow BGS can find. It don't take a college degree. But y'all sit over there and listen to him and call this dumb motherfucker the master teacher. Look at the thumbnail. Look at the thumbnail. The Ku Klux Klan, the white policeman, the white woman, and the educated black woman is black man's worst enemy. That's what he's telling y'all. But go over to his panel. Go over when he has his live. Some of y'all bed wenches is over there. Some of y'all chambermaids is hanging out with BGS saying, yeah, you right, BGS. Black women ain't shit. And the last time you looked in the mirror, because he talking about you. How do you separate yourself when he says black women? How do you separate yourself from that? let me read this comment. He says, "Yeah, a lot of bad shit has happened throughout and hit through history. It ain't happening now. Things are pretty good for everyone." What? Okay. Well, I think just maybe within the last year and a half, I don't think you could tell the family of that kid in Henderson, North Carolina, that. I don't think you could tell the kid that was just found hanging in a tree on a college campus that things have changed, sir. It don't happen now. Well, maybe you just stepped in on the end of it, so I'm not complaining from secondhand. I'm complaining from real hand experience, sir. See, that's what I like when you folks come up here talking about people complaining from secondhand experience. Let me ask you something, Flounder. Have you ever had someone that you know murdered just because of the color of their skin? Well, sir, I have. That happened when I was 7 years old. I'm well past 7 now, and it's still fresh in my memory. So you're not talking to someone who's talking about secondhand information. You're not listening to someone that's talking about secondhand information. It's not a complaint. That's truth. Flounder. You're so quick to dismiss what someone's telling you because you want to come up here with an argument talking about what ain't real or what's not happening. Maybe you haven't stepped outside lately. Maybe you don't understand that the rise of white supremacist action, the rise of just random white people going around killing people for no reason other than the color of their skin. Maybe you haven't checked the newspapers lately, sir. Maybe you have not, or maybe you only spend your time on social media listening to guys like BGS. You get read the riot act when you come in here with that bullshit. Wrong place, wrong guy. I'm chock loaded of history. I'm not talking about secondhand. I'm not 30, sir. I'm not 20. There goes another one of those old more black people. That's your argument. That's another old argument that it's so old that it might as well have Jesus sandals on. Black people live next to black people. White people killed white people. As a matter of fact, sir, go look up the actual who commits the most crime. By far, it is white men in everything. They lead the categories in everything when it comes to crime. From kiddie porn to white collar, it is white men. It is white men by far. By far, it is white men. So miss me with that argument there. I'm not sure if it's a white person or a black person, but the fact of the matter is, it's whatever the color of your skin is, he's absolutely 100% wrong. What's up there, the real creative minds? How you doing? Welcome in. He's absolutely wrong. Now you can go over to BGS and you can get all that. Yeah, you're right. All you want to, but over here, folks, you're gonna get facts. You're not gonna get watered down bullshit or something to suit a narrative because I want you to hit a super chat. Don't ask for that. Don't need it. Don't want it. But now, if I may continue, sir, if you continue to be a part of the conversation, all I ask you is to be respectful, and you're welcome to be here as long as you like.
Analysis, etc., to dissipate the horrors of castration, the disproportionality of lynchings, and even police killings. Right? We saw this with Crenshaw say her name. It doesn't just bring attention to the suffering of our sisters, and I think at this point, there's not very many academics that deny that Black women suffered from various crimes like lynching, etc. But what it does do is it takes away the disproportionality of black men being targeted by systems of lynching, castration, etc.
Okay, my first question is how? How does it take away from how do you split the two? How do you say that black men and black women were slaves at the same times, but the master was a little bit lighter? Again, another myth. Maybe you're thinking of, you would have said that in some cases black men worked harder and because of women, just based on their physical appearance. That would have been acceptable. But the master was no nicer to the black slave woman than he was to the black slave male. At no point in time. He was just property, or she was just property, nothing more, nothing less. Now, if they could have got their hands on some of those black women that was using cornrows and different things and different songs to tell these black men, this is what the master doing. Let me see what you're saying here. Well, here we go again. Okay, let me see this. This is what you normally do. This is what you guys come over here and normally do. I'm very educated. I never questioned whether you were educated or not. The mere fact that you have to tell me that you're educated, sir, tells me that you are not. And then here goes the second part. You sound like a bitter person. Of course, if I sound bitter to you, then I must have something to be bitter about, sir. And actually, I told you. You managed to look past that. I told you what I was bitter about. Because to this day, they have not found out who killed my friend Carl Williams. That was a black man. I speak his name every year. And as far as, there we go, the next thing is, who hasn't made anything out of himself? If I haven't made anything out of myself, sir, why are you listening to me? You think you're listening to me on a phone? I have an internet. I hate this. I don't normally, I don't try and do this, but there's no need to pat myself on the back. But I have a complete internet radio station that I don't have to be on YouTube. But the only place that you can get your point across, sir, is in these YouTube streets from someone like me that's bitter, that hasn't made anything of himself, for you to come into a chat and tell me that I haven't made anything of myself. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Now, again, since I was reading your comments, but I'll just leave them there. You know, sometimes the worst thing you can do, Flounder, is ignore people. So I'm not going to kick you out, but I can tell you, I'm going to ignore you. Hey there, Raw Talk Culture. Don't, because the only thing that you can do, for those folks who, the moderators in the chat, y'all know what to do. Y'all know exactly what to do. But anyway, let's get on to this.
So when you look on the slave ship, for instance, right, and you think about the barrier, the barricado between the black men who were chained to each other, the women and children who were behind a barricado or a wood plank that white people could also take refuge around if black men tried to revolt. You see, the slave system had already identified before we ever got to the New World that black men were physical threats capable of revolt.
I knew I couldn't resist. All right. Can you folks hear me now? All right, I'm back. Okay. I'm muted. My fault. I was reading. Let me read this comment again. You're lucky I was muted, so you couldn't really hear me cursing you out just now. But let me go back to this comment right here, okay? You keep talking about slavery and all the other stuff of how you hate white people. And white people are doing this and that. And when you're a very bad people doing the same thing of all colors. Well, sir, you not once did you hear me use the word hate. And actually, I'm reviewing someone talking about slavery. It's not me that brought up the subject of slavery, dumbass. It's the person that I'm reviewing that's complaining, that's saying that black women was treated even differently on the boat coming over here. How dumb can you folks be sometimes? Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, I know, Shar. Thanks for the super chat. She says on the show, bitter content greedy. Yeah, I know I am. That's what they said. Don't forget the word senile. Don't forget to put senile, and I'm senile too. Not bad for old washed up radio senile host, huh? They seem to like to come into the chat room and argue with a senile motherfucker, huh? that makes sense. Oh my goodness. Anyway, folks, let's continue with this clown show. These PhDs.
We saw this again in 1791 with the Haitian Revolution and the question of whether or not the freedom that black men tried to create in the Republic of Haiti was akin to the demons rising from below to doom Western civilization. And in every century, the 18th, the 19th, the 20th, and now in the 21st, black men are being sacrificed as symbols of white supremacy's triumph over the black race. And it's not just an argument about racism. You know, I always think back. I used to teach A.J. William Myers' book, Destructive Impulses, right? And he has this great line in there where he says that white men and women were able to destroy black men because he was basically a nigger on the loose, and they were trying to control a beast with a cloven hoof, right?
Oh, nigga, please.
I remember
Nigga,
black men for 400 or 500 years, right? That there's a cosmology where black men are demons, demonic spirits, right? And we see this in the work of someone like Dr. Ronald Neal. So we're not dealing with a measurable hatred. We're dealing with a fundamental view among white America that black men's presence has to be eliminated. And you see this back in the 70s with the work of James Stewart. You've seen this in the work of Jim Sedanius. You've seen this in the work of Anthony LaMelle Jr. You've seen this in my work. And despite all the suffering that we see in America right now, despite all the histories we want to excavate, there has not been a reckoning with the continued death of black men and boys. Talking about Trump, we're still talking about.
And will there ever be a reckoning of the unaliving, to be politically correct, of black men, women, and children in the United States of America? How do you exclude black women from that equation? How do you exclude? How do these black women, these pictures that are you can find anywhere on the internet of black slave women picking cotton, black slave women in plantations, black slave women in the master's house? How did they get here? Come over by themselves? They volunteered? How did they get here? They have pictures of just like they have pictures of black men with collars and shackles around their ankles and around their necks. They have pictures just like that. Or folks that don't talk about slavery. Okay, which part of redlining or Jim Crow didn't affect black women? Okay, folks, say you're still going too far back. Okay, let's talk about the 1960. Which part of the segregation movement didn't affect black women? Oh, no, nigga, you're still going too far back. Okay, which part of the 1984 crime bill didn't affect black women? Oh, nigga, that was the 80s. Okay, how about the 90s? Which part of the crack epidemic didn't fuck with black women? Which part of the insurance schemes and frauds that these black women had to pay overinflated in premiums? Which part? Or how about now? Since Trump took office, how many black women that was employed by the federal government have lost their jobs? How many of them? How many of these career women? Now, again, it's the math time again there, BGS and the rest of you clowns over there. Some more math time. Let's go back to those 88. 88. There's 100 women and 88 men. The government just laid off over 70 to 100,000 federal employees, and a large chunk of that we all now know were black women. A lot of these black women were head of the households. A lot of these black women were the breadwinners, were the primary breadwinners, whether they were married or not. What do you think happened to them families? The very same thing that y'all say y'all advocating for, but yet you dumbasses over there celebrating the fact that black women lost their jobs. Because like BGS said, they coming back to the table. Once Zaddy cut them loose, once Zaddy start cutting away them food stamps and SNAP benefits, they'll come back to the table, or they'll be coming back to the table begging black men to take them back. Since folks say don't go back to slavery, I don't got to talk about slavery. I can talk about right fucking now. November 27, 2025. What's happening to black men that are not happening to black women? We just seen Lily Gaddis talk about black women in blackface. We just seen a seated member of Congress being called a monkey or an ape or ghetto. We've heard white folks say that Michelle Obama is a man. We've heard y'all folks say that Donald Trump is treated like the black man now because he's a felon, because he has multiple baby mamas. He's the real first black president. The label y'all put on your damn self that you try to put on black and then say black women did it to you.
About what's being lost, we see our own people suffering, and we've made no connection between the deaths of black men and boys that we've witnessed for a decade. Think about this: black children spitting up blood on American streets because they've been shot by white cops. We've seen no awakening in the consciousness of black Americans about what's really at stake when we're talking about white supremacy and racism. We are past the intersectional ideas of discrimination. We are past debates about recognition. We are now in a world where segregation, where gerrymandering, where white vigilantism, and the continued lynching of black men sends a signal to the world that America is still a white republic. And we have no answers for that. We have a crime, a horror that's haunted the United States for decades, where black men have been over 95% of the victims of lynching since the 1870s. And despite that, when it happens yet again in the 21st century, where we swear to ourselves that we've made racial progress, we've had no analysis that even attempts to ask the question, why are black male deaths so required for America to rule over black people? There hasn't been.
Well, again, there's all kinds of studies. There's been the very person that you talked about, James Byrd, because of his tragic death, there was legislation passed for that reason. But again, and since the early days of me doing these live streams, I've said this and I'll say it again. Racism has never been dead. All it needed was a little bit of water. Donald Trump did not invent racism, folks. He just made it more prevalent for it to be out there now. I don't know what these folks are considered there. I don't know if they're red pill. I think, to be honest with you, I just think they're just bitter men that didn't get the particular black woman that they wanted, or the particular woman that they wanted. So they sit around in these clusterfucks and circle jerks and complain about it. Again, I keep reverting back to this thumbnail here. This thumbnail, the Klan, police shootings, white women, and educated black women. Why couldn't you put one of the bottom feeders of black women? Why the worst thing that happened to black men is an educate? There's nothing more refined. And this is no disrespect to anyone else, because I have black nieces and I have black sisters. But to me, there's nothing more refiner. And if that's not a word, then excuse me, but there's nothing more eloquent. There's nothing more sharper. There's nothing more than a smart black woman. Yeah, the booty is nice. Yeah, the face is nice. But after you turn all that away, what you gonna talk about?
One theoretical venture, one political movement, one pundit on national TV to ask, what is the need for this repetition of black men and boys to be sacrificed to America's greed and its tyranny so that the society somehow can operate normally? And that failure is going to get more and more of our people killed. You know, Tori, it's difficult to sit back and, you know, I'm in Scotland, right? And it's very difficult for me to see what's going on in the United States and then see people still launch identity politics against the wave of white supremacy. I see people defining themselves outside of blackness consistently, as if the old tricks that appeal to their liberal masters somehow will operate and work now that you have new conservative oversight.
Okay, so why didn't you address this to Candace Owens? Why didn't you address this to Jason Whitlock? Why did you address this to Stephen A. Smith? Why did you address this to Byron Donalds? Why didn't you address this to Tim Scott? Because those are the folks that you are talking about that sold out their blackness for proximity to whiteness. And that's been going out through histories. Them kind of niggas came off the boat too. We don't need to talk about this back then. I can talk about right now. You remember remember those two black ladies that would run around talking about I'm for Donald Trump, and speaking to my Latino crowd. Remember the Latinos that was running around, hey, I for Donald Trump. Remember them? That's who you need to be talking to.
That's true. That is true. That is true. Well, you know, black women were trying to be a constituent outside of blackness.
And the dome.
Okay, and that's an oxymoron to say black women are trying to be constituents outside of blackness. Any of you black women that's in earshot of me now, whether you're listening to me now or you catch this on a replay or somebody just happened to mention to you, could you go anywhere and not be identified as a black woman? So how could you bow out of your constituency of being a black woman when that's the first thing that they recognize about you? But these guys got PhDs.
The inability to comprehend the moment that we're in when you see black male bodies hanging from trees is astounding to me. Racism targets men and boys first, but its intent is to oppress and eliminate the rest of the group. We've been over this. We've seen it in military science. We've seen it in genocide. So we see it even in the work that Dr. Gilmore is doing up in Toronto in counterinsurgency. This is an established pattern of human conflict. But because we have people that are so married to systems of coalitions and hopes, and may I say, dependency on white liberal recognition.
Yep, black women. Can you say black female?
And I'm gonna be honest with you folks. The guy that BGS is reviewing, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but he's not saying the same thing that BGS is saying, is he? And it took me a while to catch on to that. He's not saying the same thing. He's not blaming black women, but BGS is. Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, put a one in the chat room. But so far from what we heard, has he singled out black women, or have y'all just heard him saying black people in general? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Intelligentsia, okay? So all they can talk about, right? Look at all your black female.
Hey, what's up there, Brucey? And Brucey said the first thing he noticed about anything, yeah, that's a hard thing to get away from there, Brucey. That's why I say eye contact should be reserved for the woman that you like. Anything over that is an overrated experience. Eye contact. Save it for the woman that you love. I'm with you on that, Brucey.
Pundits.
We don't have the ability to respond to what's actually happening to our people and in our communities. And I think that the worst hasn't even shown up yet.
I want to ask you about that, because what's happening now almost seems like a throwback to the old horrors that happened at the end of the Civil War, at the end of Reconstruction, when federal troops were pulled out of the South, up until the 1920s to the modern day, almost to the 1960s rather. And it seems like what's happening, if you look at the patterns, ties right into some of the things that happened in the bad old days when lynching was a very commonplace thing. You would see a dead body, black male body hanging from a tree. If it wasn't sort of like a local festival where people would come out and celebrate his death, it would just be a body hanging from a tree. There was very little investigation done by the law enforcement at that time. And 9 times out of 10, it was either swept under the rug, it was never investigated other than pulling the body down and burying it. Or what you see like in the present day now, where I'm looking at the data right now from Mississippi. The young black men that I talked about who were found hanging from trees in Mississippi, and this is all in Mississippi so far, 8 black male bodies from the year 2000 up until 2025 with this young man, Mr. Reed. Every last one has been judged a suicide by the coroners in the state and the counties that they were found in. That sounds very much like a throwback to, well, he slipped on a bar of soap or he died trying to escape, of some of the old cliches that you see when it comes to the deaths of black men. Do you think that these cliches are coming back because the country is reverting back to an old system of white supremacy, or just in a different form?
Listen, I'll be honest with you, brother. I don't think they ever went away in the South.
And they haven't. See, again, the question was asked, and basically to sum it up, has things changed from back then to now? No, they really haven't. They really have not. And that's coming from someone who parents grew up during that time, their grandparents grew up during that time, that there was a brief time in my life that there was no such thing as going downtown. There was no such thing. There's books in the family. You can call it a library, whatever, things that we've collected over the years, heirlooms or whatever, that still say for colored schools only. How did those books become part of our family history? Because my aunt was teachers. Not one of them, a couple of them were teachers during that time. For colored folks only. I'm not talking about secondhand history. I'm talking about actual and factual shit that I've seen with my own eyes. So let's see how he answers that.
That's much of my perspective about race relations and about white violence comes from the fact that I was born at the end of segregation.
Yeah, that's why I'm not fond of the South, okay? Because I know I can't adjust.
So for Southern black people, there was always the horror. There's always the threat that you can be killed or castrated if you talk to a white woman or you were out of pocket with a white man. So I don't I think that we see the increased symbolism.
Which is why I tell brothers, be careful. If you're gonna get a white spouse in the Midwest or the South, you got to be goddamn sure that she's is an ally. If not, man, don't fuck with her. She holds way too much power over you, way too much.
Of what this means to white America. So I think when you see someone like a Mr. Trey Reed, and it happens when you're at kind of the apex of white violence in America, where white people are saying that black civil rights was before Charlie Kirk was shot, where he was making statements that the civil rights movement was a mistake. When Project 2025 is saying that, the idea of equality is a mistake. When you have white supremacists saying that they have a right to own America and that it's a white republic. I think when you have that language and you have the intent in white Americans now saying that there was a mistake for letting black people even pretend that they should be equal to white people, then that lynching, right, that lynching of Mr. Reed means something different, because you can't depend on the moral conscience of white people or liberal white people to now say that those other white people are fundamentally wrong.
Again, those were, if you ever heard Muhammad Ali speak before, those were some of the exact words that Muhammad Ali spoke. Some of the very exact words. He might have changed a few of them up. But again, watch who you folks run into, because some people might already know what you're talking about. So this guy that calls himself a PhD, he's absolutely right. But again, I don't see BGS projecting what this guy is saying. And that is the point of this. Here it is. You're trying to paint a picture of this guy is against black women, but and from what I'm hearing so far, he is not. You are.
Because now that conservative whites have power, there is no liberal entertainment that's trying to push back on white violence. They're not risking their necks for black people. And this is why I said the difference now is that we don't have black solidarity, black racial consciousness, whatever term you would like to use, that's offended that black men are still being hung from trees.
Well, because your sisters are sold out, man. Sisters.
There it is. He says we don't have black solidarity. It takes black men and black women to have solidarity. But the first thing out of his mouth is because the sisters. And to answer your question, Sir Roman, are HBCUs better for black people? It depends. But we all know, I mean, the honest truth about HBCUs, we know what they were actually built for. The purpose of the HBCUs. It was to, educate those children that were, from the rich white aristocrats. You know what children that I'm speaking of. Most of the HBCUs bear the name of the white person that started the endowment for them. But if you look at the history of HBCUs, you'll see that's one of those hard to get in clubs. A lot of colorism and different things like that go on in some of these college campuses. We saw that with some of the Spike Lee films. He brought that to our national attention. Correct me if I'm wrong. So just with anything, HBCUs has its good place and its bad place. Yes, he did, Miss J. He absolutely did. He put the educated black woman there as the rage bait. Absolutely, he did. You're absolutely right.
Sold out for Becky, and then once she did, they got all the women in the house. Then Donald Trump and the rest turned on her. You don't see these Democrats in there really standing up for black women in their jobs. Okay. They barely say anything. They're not here. Becky, Becky trying to cover her own ass right now, to be honest. But yeah, and as white supremacy is declining, okay, they're going to get much more vicious. I've been saying that. Okay, be careful.
And that's again, as if these guys were PhD, instead of just giving you blunt end statements or bare statements or vague statements, he should have expounded on that a little bit more. And it goes like this: BGS. The white population itself, the birth rate is at minus. So it goes without saying, any race that finds themselves to be once the dominant race, they will do anything to hold on to that power. That includes what we see going on now. Changing laws, inputting people in places like Pete Hegseth that we knew that don't like people of color. I didn't say black people. He don't like people of color. We know that Laura Loomer does not like people of color. We know Marjorie Taylor Greene does not like people of color. We know that Laura Boebert does not like people of color. We know that Judge Jeanine Pirro, even though she is a person of color, but when you say the Democrats are not doing nothing, if it not been for the few Democrats that give a shit about not only black people, but people of all colors, imagine what would be really going on. But why is it only the Democrats that should care about people eating? Why should it only be the Democrats that care about 42 million Americans not being able to eat? Why should it only be the Democrats that care that 70,000 black, 70 to 100,000 black women lost their jobs last year? Why should it only be the fault that last year in 2024, over 268,000 women disappeared in this country? Get your math. I'll get you. Let's do some more math right quickly. Out of those 268,000 women that disappeared, women and children that disappeared, 92,000 of them were black women and black children, black girls. Do the math. They're giving us 15% of the population. Go look it up for yourself. Over 268,000 women and girls disappeared last year alone. 90 to 92,000 of those were black women and little black girls. Gone. But you have this clown BGS up there talking about nobody gives that black women are the enemy of black men. And it don't take much to get these facts, folks. It don't take much. It does not take a college degree to debunk what BGS is saying. While he's saying it, you can literally type it in and type in his chat room, "No, BGS, you wrong about that. Why don't y'all do it?"
Because white supremacy is on a decline, I mean, rapidly. And these guys, just like a wounded tiger or a wounded lion, okay? They lash out. So be very careful.
Okay, again, we heard the person that he's reviewing, Dr. Whatever his name is. We heard him say that there's not too much difference between back then and now. And then you just heard this clown say that white supremacy is on the decline. Well, even the FBI and the CDC says the number one threat in the United States of America is white supremacy. Domestic terrorist. White domestic terrorism is the number one threat to any and everybody in this country.
I said, remember, coroners are elected in many states. Yeah. Even if they're not elected, okay? They cover up. They're white too.
We have black people in black studies and in black universities that hate black men just as much as white people do. We have classes in these courses saying that black men are dangerous, rapists, deviants, criminals. You pick your poison. So you can't dehumanize the population within your own group and then expect people to come together.
Say it again, black man. Say it again, okay? Say it again. You can't expect to dehumanize your men and then expect them to come together with you. Say it again, black man.
Because they're
Well, doesn't that go both ways? You can't expect to demonize or dehumanize your black women and expect black women to come to the table. Say it again, Miss J. He just did it. PhD. PhD, or surrounds himself with PhDs. But this is the shit that comes out of their mouth.
offended that their lives were taken. Even now, we don't have a conversation about these young black men and boys being
Yep.
innocent,
Yeah.
having potential,
Nope.
being a loss to the potential of our race.
Nope.
So none of those conversations have even been had. And the crazy thing is, I saw on Instagram that there were some pictures from the Kimberly Crenshaw's AAPF. And it was talking about the mobilization of misogyny and misogynoir by the Trump administration along with racism.
Uh-huh.
I didn't see any mention or focus on this lynching.
Right.
See, we're being distracted by a kind of language that was meant to mobilize black middle class people into white institutions and political programs, and we're not attending to the violence that's happening in southern states throughout the Midwest.
You talking about Dr. Curry's talking about black bourgeoisie, okay, which Fraser wrote about in the 1950s.
And in various black communities where white people are taking over, where white people are marching.
Okay, folks. So far, I've been paying direct attention to what Dr. Curry was saying, trying to push BGS out the way. Is what he's saying, is he wrong? But is he at any time separating black men and black women? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, please. Put a 1 in the chat if he is separating black women, or he's constantly using we or us, or is he constantly using it's black women's fault, as in BGS? Which one?
Into HBCUs under the guise of free speech to tell black people that they're inferior.
They ain't snatched one. They ain't snatched one Keisha. Okay, Keisha makes up 75% of the HBCU, but they don't snatch one Keisha. Keisha ain't said shit about them white boys being in HBCU.
You have white people now saying that because black people are not going to be in institutions, they should be controlled in a managed population. This isn't just fascism. It's fascism, as I've said before, because white people are affected. We are seeing the deliberate cultural shift where black people are now thought to be a managed population that do not have the freedom and need to be prevented from resisting an uprising against the white majority.
Oh, very, very much so. Very much so. Very much so. Okay. You send Jamal to prison and give Keisha welfare. Okay, that's the plan.
Okay.
So when we see this,
wait a minute, and then there's another one of those arguments. They send Jamal to prison. No, Jamal did something to go to prison. No, right. He's just inserting his opinion. He has not addressed anything that Dr. Curry has said, has he? He just inserts an opinion. It's usually a negative one. And it's usually a negative one. Yes, correct me. I know I'm not the only one, Shar. I know I'm not the only one. And Styx 1987, is that from the group Styx? Come sail away, come sail away, come sail away 1987. Hey, listen, man. Listen, makes no difference to me whether you love somebody white, black, brown, or whatever. As long as you got a wife and children that you're taking care of them, doing what you need to do as a man, you ain't got no problems with me, bro. If you can't be with the one you love the one you with. You never get no judgment from me for who you decided to spend the rest of your life with. I celebrate it. I don't care what color you are, because if you went over the numbers, 100 to 88, that means some black men ain't gonna get a black woman anyway, just based on the numbers. And that go prove that some more solidifies my point. So the black men that don't get it, once the black women run out, you don't get none. You making room for somebody else. I'm just making light of what I'm saying, but hey, man, love who you love, bro. Congratulations.
Happen. I don't know if it's reverting back. I think that it's an amplification of the tendencies that's been there. And I want to be really clear about this. For the last 30 or 40 years, black scholars, black activists, black pundits, any black person that believed that racism was fundamentally there and was built off violence, was silenced and not hired.
Say
This idea
say it again,
that
black
black
man.
people are slaves and always will be
Say it again, black man. In other words, there was silence, right? And if it wasn't for the black manosphere, voices like Dr. Curry, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Neal, okay, wouldn't.
No, it wouldn't. The black manosphere. Go look up what the black manosphere represents, folks. The Black Manosphere Conclave. Go look what they do. It's a sausage fest. Men sitting around complaining about other men, trying to get you to give them 4, 5, 6, 7, even thousands of dollars to come hear this, that you can listen to BGS for free. You don't need to pay no money to hear black men discouraging or disparaging black women. All you got to do is find a black YouTube stream that says BGS on it. The Black Manosphere is, correct me if I'm wrong, is under the eye watch of the federal government. So how good can you be? When everything that you look up under the Black Manosphere, the one key word that's there, it says misogynist group. Or men that sit around complaining about what women do and don't do. Or women that sit around and subjugate women to a certain particular way of their thinking. That's how any place you go that they describe the manosphere, whether it be the white manosphere or the black manosphere. That's how Just Pearly thinks it was easy to infiltrate you niggas, because she know y'all dumb over there. And y'all will do anything for an ounce of fame. 15 minutes of fame, even if it means selling out your soul.
Green Gorilla would not be able to be heard, okay? Dr. Johnson got 4 PA. He just...
Don't nobody want to hear Dr. Johnson or Green Gorilla. That's the thing about it is, this Dr. Curry, it don't seem like he thinks the same way you guys do. Because you're not addressing it, BGS. You have yet to address anything that man has said.
Graduated 4 PhDs from the Black Male Studies program, okay? This year. That would have not have happened 5 years ago. It wasn't for Kevin and the Black Manosphere and Dr. Johnson and the PhDs in the space, that wouldn't happen. Basically, the pendulum will keep swinging in the other direction, okay? But now the whole pendulum is swung back, okay? The whole pendulum swung back is because the Black Manosphere and the Manosphere at large is a force to be reckoned with now.
Oh, really?
From Afro-pessimism is the most polite version of what we've discussed in southern states literally since I was a child. Because you can say that black people are permanently oppressed or black people are forever the slave, but that's not the threat. The threat is when black people believe that they should be free and should be better than the condition that white people try to hold them in. And in Louisiana, where you have
and that is an absolute fact. That's the problem. White folks are mad because black people decided not to let them subjugate them anymore. That's what the problem is. Now let's see if BGS says anything about that.
Or you had Huey P. Newton, and you have a history of resistance, even by guns if necessary. That is a fundamentally different kind of thought. It's a different way of thinking about your relationship to your dominant oppressor. But we don't have conversations about that right now. We're constantly miseducated to believe that a political system or voting is going to remedy a problem that's built in the psyches of white people and what they think about black people. This country has never existed in a world where democratic freedom did not include the lynching and murder of black people, especially black men and boys, without abatement. It did not arrest. It never stopped. And we have to pretend that somehow we've made progress in this country. And in doing so, we've erased the fact that black people and black men are still dying and hanging from trees. So until we get our heads on straight and understand that our fate is tied together, black men, women, and children, black families and communities, against the white population that's trying to spell our doom, we are not going to be able to respond to this moment. And unfortunately, given what Trump's already done in less than a year, we don't even have the kinds of protections that were built up for us in the 60s and 70s to allow us to respond to this moment.
Before some, I was having a conversation with someone just yesterday about that very same thing that Dr. Curry just said. And it's kind of our fault. We should have built the protection. We should have by now, from what happened in the 60s, what happened in the 70s, what happened in the 80s. Some of us should have been smart enough. Some of us black men, some of us especially black men with substance that's able to do, should have been able to put together a blueprint to combat this. And I could not say no, you're wrong. Because they were right. It's always we trying to get a seat at the table instead of building our own. I don't know, Miss Jalen. I don't know why he decided to put the black. I guess, like I said, and I'm only guessing, it's the representation of what's keeping the black man down. The Klan, the police, the white woman, and the black woman, the educated black woman. I'm guessing. But I don't think my guess is too far from wrong, listening to BGS.
Which the thing is, unfortunately, millennials and Zs and As are going to have to relearn the lesson that the boomers and silent generation learned way back when, okay? You put that stuff on pause, but like we're saying, it never went away. And you guys thought that everything was good. The coast is clear. We're just gonna lay back and we're gonna party and mix and all that kind of stuff without the precautions, okay? And y'all let this stuff step by step leak back in, okay? And then you're gonna blame the boomers, okay? We didn't let it leak back in, okay? We the one to put the pause button on this stuff. And the boomers gonna get credit like it wasn't nothing. Like, oh, we shouldn't have mixed, we shouldn't have integrated, blah, blah, okay?
Well, damn. Even the sun shine on the dog ass if he holding up twice, like high enough. Even a broke clock, right, twice a day. So I'll agree with that, BGS. But again, I gotta blame the manosphere and some of the teachings, because y'all quick to say, fuck the boomers. Angry Man told you that. Angry Man said, don't listen to the boomers. Y'all quick to call me old. Y'all quick to say boomers are senile. But now here you are saying, because you had no argument for Dr. Curry. That's why. There was no way that you can insert an insult there. So you had to agree with him. And he is partly right. Yes. Today's black man is not the black man of the 1960s, 70s, or 80s.
I'm telling you, okay. Been telling you, okay. The boogeyman ain't dead yet, okay. That we put the stake.
Now, I wanted y'all to hear that. Now, didn't he say earlier that racism and white supremacists was on the decline? It's that double talk. Just let them talk. They yap it up every time.
In the vampire's heart, and you go in there and pull the stake out of the vampire's chest, what do you think he's gonna do? Ms. Dota to keep teaching. Yep, appreciate you, Ms. Dota. Ms. Dota knows what I'm talking about, right? He's from Mississippi. Okay, he know racism ain't dead yet. Okay. White supremacy is still alive. It's dying, but ain't dead yet. Okay.
How is it dying? How is it dying?
They thought shit was sweet. Okay, they did. They used to tell me. Okay, shit's sweet. Okay, no. Okay, all right. Keep. Yeah, gotta be vigilant. Okay.
So we are put in a position where black male death is highly visible, and there are no moral consciences that are willing to listen or recognize what those deaths mean. So the only available option we have is to turn to ourselves to actually start understanding why black men consistently die and why that thirst among the white population seems to only be quenched when it sees the corpse of a black man hanging from a tree.
Yep.
Well, let's explore that a little bit more, because my question is, what is it about the black male specifically and the black male body specifically that makes the black male take the brunt of racial animosity in this country?
Now, Charlottesville doesn't scare them, because the same women that hate them folks in Charlottesville, the same women go sleep with them same dudes. Okay,
there it is.
Go sleep with us.
Sooner or later, it comes down to that, folks. Y'all excuse my language, but I put the berry out early. This is grown folks here. It's all about the coochie. It's all about the kitty cat. It's all about clapping the cheeks. That's what it all boils down to. Somebody getting it, and they not. Still holding on to the woman from high school that rejected them. Still mad looking at the picture of what should have been. The picture of the girl that looked like Foxy Brown. Still holding on to your high school crush saying she did me so wrong. Or the last girlfriend that you had, that you see her moved on with her life. Because you were stuck in the patriarchy. Well, women are there for arm candy and having babies. Y'all better take a look around. Y'all better take a look around. Women is walking away from y'all in drones. They can't see the forest for the trees no more. It's hard to, just like y'all fellas say, it's hard to tell the hoes from the real women. It's hard to tell the dumbass men from the real men. And women ain't taking that chance no more. They loaded, they strapped. Because he grew up in Los Angeles or on the West Coast. That's why he keeps dogging the South. That's why. But it's all about the coochie, Brucey. That's what it is. And they can't get none.
Same dudes.
Man, there's lots of theories, man. I mean, Sedanius, he was an evolutionary psychologist, so he thought that, all human conflict is basically a male on male battle. It's a war for men. Man against man. And there's lots of strong evidence for that. I mean, you have other brothers who think that, it's psychological, that's an issue of the fear.
Okay, whatever happened to man versus man, man versus environment, man versus himself, man versus nature, all those different things goes into play. But we all know that the mere nature of man is to be combative against each other. Conquest, resources. If you don't have resources, you go to war and you go get them. That's been going on since the millennial. I'm going to get what you get. And what was usually the spoils of war, folks? The gold, the silver, and the women. That was the spoils of war.
Hear that black men inspiring white men. I mean, black male studies scholars kind of have, we have different opinions about this. My view is that, when you create societal hierarchies, they're going to focus on men because there's both competition for cultural reproduction and biological reproduction. But black men are largely unassimilatable within Western democratic society.
True.
So the reasons, there's lots of different theories for why it happens. But the reality is that we haven't dedicated the resources to try to understand it. I mean, you have to think about this. We see that, I mean, historically, there were like 4,000 lynchings, and out of that, only 100 and less than 200 were black women. So that means that in the history of the United States, right, the majority of lynchings have overwhelmingly been men, and nobody has understood why. We won't even ask the question to dedicate the intellectual, much less the financial resources.
Even the lead attorney was saying in Chicago, okay, around the country, there's they have black sites disappearing black men, young black men. Just snatch them off the street and you don't hear from them.
Okay, again, that is a legitimate argument that the doctor put forward. And it should be addressed as such. But the problem that I'm having with you, BGS, you keep trying to separate these atrocities that are happening to black people. And this is not what Dr. Curry is doing. He's merely pointing out the difference in how things are being talked about in this country. We know there's still lynching. We know that the main reason why black men were more prominently lynched because they were the stronger. Buck breaking. They would take the strongest male out and castrate or have take a mule, a southbound mule and a northbound mule. What could women do after that? There's too many nuances, BGS, that you could have filled in instead of trying to blame everything at the heels of women, Black women in particular, because at some point in time, we were just as powerless as they were. Remember, a slave master or overseer could walk into your cabin, snatch out your daughter, snatch out your wife, have their way with her, and there was absolutely nothing you could do about it, because if you did, guess what would happen? Everybody would be summarily put to death.
No rule of law, no court appearance. You just snatch them off, right? And they put them in secret lockdowns even today. Okay, they're just more quiet about it.
To understand why Black men seem to always be targeted by white supremacist societies. And this is what Black male studies scholars have been attending to, right? People like Sedanius and Felicia Prado say that patriarchy operates differently, that Black men experience arbitrary set discrimination because that's what makes the subordinate male target hypothesis operate. That means that when you define an outgroup, you're going to define that outgroup, say it's terrorists. You're going to attack the men of that group. But what Black male studies scholars are trying to say is like, yeah, but there's a highly sexualized component because you're not just killing Black men. It's a ritual. It's a symbol. You're castrating them.
Yeah.
You're sexually assaulting them.
Yeah.
So patriarchy operates to target these men as well. So it's
Shout out to Dr. Dr. Welsing, okay? Frances Cress Welsing, okay? She said the Black penis was the most lethal weapon to white supremacy.
something beyond racism. And what we see in the Trump administration, and there was I wish I could remember the exact program, but in the Trump administration, there was.
Hey, Mella, how you doing? Yeah, I wouldn't even say unreasonable. I'll just say just flat out wrong.
There was this claim that they wanted to deport Mexican Latino men, but they want to keep the Latino women.
Yes.
So they can reproduce with them. I think there's someone in
Yes.
California broadcasting this. And that speaks to
hey, that was me. Say my name, Dr. Curry. Say my name. In California, that was me.
No, it wasn't. Stop it. Nobody coming to see you, Otis. Nobody coming to see you.
It's me.
No, it wasn't. He was waiting for that moment, folks.
Yeah,
He was waiting for that moment. This whole damn thing. Now you know what the whole setup was, because he referred to somebody in California. BGS really thought that this whole stream was about him. He lived for that moment to say, this was me he was talking about. See, I am somebody. That this prominent PhD scholar, listen to me. Little old BGS, I told y'all I'm somebody. I told y'all I'm the master teacher. Nobody come to see you, Otis.
to deal with that imagery. I mean, look, when you look at young Black boys, I mean, some of the research I'm doing now for my next book, when you look at young Black boys and suicide ideation, it is directly tied to the internalization of negative stereotypes about Black men. So when young Black boys see Black men killed, when young Black boys see Black men incarcerated, when young Black boys hear the kind of negative stereotypes about Black men as being worthless or trash or body bags that we see from some professors at Ivy League institutions on Twitter.
Well, doctor, wouldn't that work both ways? When you go over to these live streams and you hear night after night after night, hour after hour after hour, how fucked up Black women are, don't you think that would have a negative impact on young Black women? I'll call out a name, Jay Prince. We hear what he thinks about his daughters. We got a whole lot of these so-called upper echelon folks. I'll call that another one, Obsidian, quick to call Black women out of shape, overweight. Have y'all seen a picture of Obsidian's woman? Obsidian called Black women low-hanging fruit that's only there for their entertainment. That was just a couple of days ago on Freezy's channel. My question, Freezy, since now it's just now in my memory, why would you allow Obsidian up on your channel to say the things that you say that he said, and then say that you are for black women? Or to pretend that you don't know what Obsidian stands for or what he's about. To me, in my honest opinion, sir, you became part of the problem. And that's flat out. I call it right down the middle. You became part of the problem. I had my reservations, but once I saw that stream with BG with Obsidian on it, and the way that you allowed him to speak to the what black women in the audience in the panel, told me all I needed to know, that you're part of the conspiracy. Under the guise. That's why I always start these streams off with that. With Mashiach. You're always there talking about you're there to check up on the sisters. That you're there for the benefit of the sisters. Y'all gonna find out that he ain't. Y'all gonna find out that the emperor has no clothes.
When young black boys see that, it decreases their own self-worth. It creates negative thinking and a negative self-ideation model that spurs things like depression, anxiety, and suicide ideation. So we live in a society that's not only attacking black people, but specifically attacking black boys. And we don't have a response to that trauma because we're not studying that trauma. There are very few clinicians that have any idea about anti-black misandry, much less willing to acknowledge that it exists, despite all the data we have on racial battle fatigue, on negative self-conception, and we know empirically that suicide ideation among young black boys is the highest. They're among the highest demographic.
I no disrespect to you, doctor, but there's all kinds of studies. There's all kind of empirical damage studies that has been done on those very same things that you're talking about. University of South Carolina, University of Colorado, University of Georgia, Yale, Harvard, all of them have done studies on that. But they can do as many studies as they want to put the plan in action, like the George Floyd Act. Quite simple to do. But instead, it was what happened to it? It was met with resistance, not only from white folks, from black people, under the guise of we trying to defund the police. And because some of the people of the Black Lives Matter became greedy and was, instead of helping black women, children, and men, they decided to buy up houses. Y'all decided to say that all black people are like that.
Have the highest incidences of even attempted suicide. So we are a people floundering in a social political world that have people that give you lots of thoughts. We have lots of pundits, but we don't have lots of people with the specialties that can actually alleviate the health crisis, the mental health crisis that we're experiencing as a people because of white supremacy and racism. And we can't even speak about the vigilante violence because we're not even organized anymore to even address what happens when racist whites come into our communities. Because we don't have the lawyers that are defending them in a world where we actually have white lawyers and white politicians saying that it's okay for white people to practice.
Again, not true. As much as you folks want to not talk about y'all call him an ambulance chaser, but I'll give you one in particular that a lot of us follow, from the Defiant Lawyers. Go check out his channel. Go check out what him and his wife are doing over there. Quite easy to find. Like I said, folks, for everything that these folks can tell you that's not happening, I'm not a PhD. I'm not a scholar. I've never set foot in a university behind a desk. But it's quite easy for me to find this information. I may not have the paperwork that says I'm kind of smart or I'm a thinking or a learned man. But don't take that to it.
This free speech, right? Their term, and harass black people, right? This is, it's almost laughable that you can have a group of people fight from slavery, fight through Jim Crow, fight for civil rights.
Yeah, anybody that's an academic has gone to school with black women, they can tell you that this figure here is very accurate, right next to Becky.
There he
Right next
goes
to
again.
Becky. And guess
See?
who's holding?
There again, the doctor's talking about us as a overall, and here he goes. I told you that's why he put that there. The main threat, according to BGS, it's not the Ku Klux Klan, not the police, not white supremacy protecting Becky, but that smart black woman. That's what BGS is saying, folks.
Holding the torch, okay? The white Klansmen, and and Keisha, okay, holding the torch, and got the cops and Becky for backup.
See,
all the time we're losing people. None of this is peaceful for us. We're not white feminists. We didn't just march and then say we demand rights and they write us into a bill. Our people died. Our men died. Our women died. Families lost fathers and mothers and children, right? Because they believed in the idea of freedom. And you're telling me that in less than 40 years we forget what all that violence is. You're telling me in 40 years we will tolerate white supremacists telling us that our leaders are somehow bad because Martin Luther King had orgies of cheating on.
And when you send your children to the oppressor's school system, what do you think is going to come out on the other side? What do you think is going to come out?
Okay. We're going to send him to Umar school? What school have you built? Are we going to send them to a school that's never there? So our children should not be educated. So instead of the school system, the public school system, teaching education down the middle, the best thing to do, BGS, is to say, you shouldn't have sent them to us. Most people in this country cannot afford private school, BGS. But this is a PhD. Oh, he surrounds himself with PhDs.
That's obvious. That's obvious, okay? We send your children to the oppressor's school system and you don't give them an alternative education, you're gonna get this, okay? Even HBCUs, they're just as bad, okay? They're not exempt.
That's why. Like it's
again, what's the alternative, BGS?
HBCUs were never meant to educate black people, okay? HBCUs actually set up to educate the children of the slave master, okay?
Evil to me that we live in a world where we can see black people being killed by white people and nothing in us immediately jumps to defend the humanity of the black people who are victimized by the people who historically oppressed us and enslaved us for centuries. And we think somehow we're being intellectual when we disassociate ourselves from the reality of that violence. That's disgraceful because I can tell you by living in Europe, there's not a single white group, be they Polish, be they French, be it Britons or British, there's not a single group of people that do not wear their ethnic group on their arm. There's not a single one. So they'll speak greatly and positively.
To me, it's not the nose ring, it's the cap and gown. Notice she's wearing a cap and gown. Okay, she's not don't have tats and all that kind of. She got a cap and gown. He knows what he's talking about.
About Europe, but they will invest all their energy in developing Italy or Poland or Britain. So now you take that mind that right, some of the most prosperous nations in the world are ethnocentric, or ethno-nationalist, in fact.
Yeah, that's true.
But then you go back to America, and you can't even get black people across class divisions to value the lives of each other. You have Europeans willing to go to war with other Europeans if they cross the wrong border.
Well, what the fuck was the Civil War, sir? What was the Salem witch hunt, sir? What was the Boston Tea Party, sir? What was the Branch Davidian, sir? What are some of these far right groups? They hate the white government. They hate the white establishment. They're just as white as they are. So what are you talking about? No, he absolutely was not. He was talking about folks in general, black folks in general. He even said black men, women, and children are suffering from what's going on right now today. He even said it. BGS refused to address that. He just started talking about, well, she ain't got no tattoos anyway. But according to BGS, folks, this is the problem right here. This black educated woman. That's the problem for black men. It ain't the police. It ain't because you married a white woman. It ain't the Ku Klux Klan. It's her.
If they don't have a treaty in place in the EU.
That's true.
But you can't even get Black Americans when they're being killed by their oppressor. The same group of people that enslaved them, the same group of people that wanted Jim Crow segregationism, the same group of people that in majority voted for Donald Trump where he said, this is what I'm going to do. You can't even get Black people to become solidified and unified against that immediate threat.
Because we're never solidified, okay? People have this idea that we're or as actually an organic whole. No, we're actually an amalgamated people. We're actually created by white people. Until we actually get to that and get inside that and understand.
This nigga just said we are actually created by white people. Did y'all hear that? This nigga just said we are actually created by white people. Yeah, you can't. Where's Kevin Samuels? You can't make this shit up.
That it's not going to change. Okay, you are created by white people. Okay,
he said it again.
You do not have an organic culture. Your culture is created by your oppressor. You're going to have to do something to change that. Why do you think it works the way it works, and it works to be destructive? It works to actually oppress Black men, okay? Because that's the way it was actually designed to do it. You haven't changed that shit, okay? Your women are working exactly as they were designed to actually work, okay? Kiss up behind Becky and look down on you and keep you under control.
This is the master teacher, y'all.
I said, it's going around that Toni Morrison mentored Jeff Bezos' ex, Mackenzie Scott. That is why she donated to HBU. I'm not surprised, okay? Toni Morrison actually told a lot of truth, okay? Because she actually gave back. It's because the Black men in her family sacrificed themselves to actually send her to school. Otherwise, she'd have been a maid.
Y'all hear that? And just saying, instead of saying that Toni Morrison was a great writer, author, philanthropist, he just reduced her to, if the Black men in her family had not helped her out, she would have been a maid. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? This is coming from someone that these niggas over there call the master teacher. If I was the Dr. Curry, I would call you on the phone and say, hey, don't ever review anything else of mine again.
Okay, her brothers, her father, her uncles, and her brothers actually took menial jobs to send her to school. And this is why she has
and if they did, your problem with that is? I thought that's what men were supposed to do, to make sure that everybody around them were educated. That's called being the leaders in your community. What's the problem, BGS?
More of a heart for Black men than most authors.
So there is no response beyond trying to re-educate Black people, but at the same time you're trying to re-educate and re-socialize and bring Black people together. You have the same other groups of Black people saying we don't need to do that. So the only predictable consequence of that is going to be the loss of more Black life. And it's upsetting and it's nonsensical because we're so removed from reality. We've retreated to the recesses of middle classdom. Yeah. We don't want to understand what violence actually looks like in our society. And that's the tragedy.
They know what it looks like. They ignore it, okay?
No, sir. Don't think I'm gonna let you skip over that, because BGS 2-3 times now we have heard you say that white supremacy is on the decline. You're ignoring it. You're over there telling your supporters that that Black people are always going to be dependent on white folks. That the gynocracy is this and white folks are this. It's you that invited Just Pearly to your platform. It's you that would have had Nick Fuentes on your platform. It's you that allow white folks to come up on your platform and speak disparagingly about Black folks and then call it content. It is you, sir, and folks like you. That's who that doctor is referring to. He's not talking about folks like me. He's not talking about whether you like Amazing Lucas content or not. He's not talking about the Amazing Lucas. He's talking about niggas like you, Anton Daniels, Angry Man, Tommy Sotomayor. That's who he's talking about.
Same thing that I've just started reading the Black Bourgeoisie, okay? And black men suffered.
Is that we're going to embrace the gradualism, and over time things will come, things will change. And Brother Jackson is at the end of his life.
Yes.
He's an old man now.
Yep.
And the same things he said at the beginning of his career that he fought for are now coming back to haunt him. So when he dies, he will die in an America that has less freedom, less rights, less protections for black people than when he was marching in the streets in 1967. So no, people are not going to approach this issue because it threatens their pockets. And no, black people in the academy, right, who we usually end up having these arguments with in social media and even in commentary, because now, public commentary and punditry and journalism is just a reflection of the conversations that go on in the university, unfortunately.
Oh, my goodness.
Right? These people.
Right, because we have folks like the Hodge twins. We have folks like Jason Whitlock. We have folks like Candace Owens. We have all these folks over there on Fox News, black men that are parroting what white supremacy. Oh, you guys should just pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Or like the guy that came in there earlier saying that black people do more harm to other black people. Those are the very same things that this doctor is talking about. That's why the conversation will never move forward, because for every one of me, there's 20 BGSs out there. For every Dr. Curry, there's 20 BGSs out there that will take the words that should be listened to and adhere to in a completely different way, because BGS thinks he can misconstrue words or just speak over them that he was right about something. You're an idiot, BGS.
People don't see themselves reflected in working class black people.
Ooh, it's classism, yeah. That's the bourgeoisie.
The real difference is you have black male studies scholars that are willing to talk about this issue and talk about the deaths of black men and boys because they're from working class community. Every single one of the black male studies scholars that I've trained, right, come from poverty, come from their first generations. And these are people that academies and universities, Research One University said don't belong here because overwhelmingly the black people that are in the academy are middle class. I'm first generation. I come from Southern poverty. So the sensibility of what we're discussing when we talk about the hatred of racism isn't simply based on us disagreeing or not getting a job. We're talking about people who are poor, where if they disappear, nobody cares. We're talking about the brother in the family, like Mr. Trey Reed, who was killed, where Colin Kaepernick had to come in and pay for the autopsy because the family couldn't afford it.
Yeah, that's true. And also, hell, you got black women, okay?
There we go.
You have black women.
There we go. Instead of addressing what that man just said, which was absolutely true, he comes back to blaming black women. See, this is what I'm saying, folks. This is what I'm saying, because these folks feel that BGS, I don't know how many followers he has, but this thing of just because I have a bunch of followers, that makes me right. Is BGS right? If anybody in their right mind agree with BGS, does he said anything of substance other than you shout out Big J, shame, blame, and try to explain? Big J, I don't know if you're in the cloud somewhere, but I know you enjoying this. If you watch it, I should have tagged you.
In especially during the crack era, sacrificing their sons and their boyfriends and their husbands to go out on the corner and sell crack to bring the money home. And when they went to prison, okay, they forgot about them because they're disposable.
So it's the black women's fault that the black man or the black dude decided to go out on the corner and sell crack. When they got caught, instead of the black women doing 20 years with that nigga, she just said, I'm moving on. That's her fault for wanting to live a life, not being locked up with a nigga too, not spending her weekends being frisked because you're trying to catch a conjugal visit. Or how about this? She working a menial job and she got to send some of that money to put onto your books because you was out selling crack.
Okay, look at what's his name that they got married, and her first two baby daddies were drug dealers, right? Okay, she got married to a star and moved on. Don't even talk about them, right? Because they're disposable.
What is there to talk about? Okay, at some point in time, somebody had a child with another child. Come to find out that they will never get over Sierra and Russell Williams, folks. What is it? Russell, what's his name? Russell, with the Seattle Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers, the football player, Sierra and Russell. What's his name? Did I say Russell Williams? Is it whatever his last name is? I don't know why. I watched football so long, folks, I forgot the man's name. But they'll never get over the fact that Sierra decided to say, fuck Future, and go have a life with a soon to be, well, one day, pro Hall of Fame, living a good life. And they still mad at that.
Keisha's Pauli Murray's descendant, and the Becky's, I don't know. Yeah, now the National Organization of Women was started by Pauli Murray and Eleanor Roosevelt. Go look it up. Okay, they won't tell you that. They won't tell you that. Okay.
Well, that's debatable.
Those people, those working.
Lori Harvey don't talk. Lori Harvey never mentions her father. Okay. Lori Harvey does not talk about her father. Okay, she took on Steve Harvey's last name. Okay, that is not her original name. That is not his biological daughter. Okay,
and we don't know that. We don't know that. That Steve Harvey remarried someone, and the child decided to take on the name of the stepfather. What's unusual about that? So that means there's a deadbeat dad somewhere. The mama came up, whether you like it or not. She had a baby with this guy. We're almost done here, folks. Let's move on a little bit farther here. We're almost done here.
Made and what?
I mean, look. Go back and look at the look like Hakeem Jeffries and the other guy running for governor. Okay. How soft they are, how soft they approach. Barack Obama was one of the few that I could actually say had a swagger, okay? Which is why the white women voted for him. But he's one of the few. And that's like Michelle tries to tear him down constantly, okay? Look at Michelle Obama's brother, okay? 6'6", and look how soft-spoken he is, okay, when he's around her.
Ends up happening is with him on with the dress on, the white man tries to rape him. The white husband that he's working in the house for tries to rape him. And the lesson that Wright's trying to explain here is that, and this is something that's actually taken up by Anthony Lamell Jr., right, a queer Afrocentric scholar. But he says that look, the process of black men being ostracized, castrated, right, barred from participating in society, is a process of feminization. But the black man will never be seen as a woman or treated like a woman because he will always still be the rapist, right? And Baldwin has a really powerful piece.
Wow.
In his nonfiction. I like his nonfiction much more than his fiction because we get.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go and listen to that its entirety, I put the link down in the description box there. You're more than welcome to go and listen to that. Again, folks, they call BGS the master teacher. And all you heard was him complaining about the ills of women, what women are not doing, or why women should be doing this, or why women should fall under your thumb. Well, to me, if you go throughout history, because you heard the little part about him talking about Michelle Obama tried to tear down Barack Obama. To me, throughout history, it speaks volumes. For every great ruler, there was a woman behind him that he had counsel with. They call it these days, they call it pillow talking. Antony and Cleopatra. Let's see, the list goes on of great women throughout history. So much so that some of these great women were even excluded from what they call the Bible. Black women throughout the greatness of history, since they're talking about, don't go back way back then, we talk about how did the so-called the white men get on the moon? How are we able to communicate through this apparatus called the internet? And through all that, what BGS tried to insinuate, that the only people that went through this, that has not recovered from that, is black men, because black women helped them throughout history be subjugated. That's what they're teaching over there, over at the master teacher. If that's what y'all want, go on over there. Listen to him. But I dare anybody that listens to BGS to open up another tab in your Google, and the first time that he said something that you think is wrong, it probably is. Check for yourself. The accomplishment of black women is unmeasurable, folks. Just as long as the suffering of black women, unmeasurable. I'm from a close enough time in history that I remember my sisters, my older siblings, being in the front lines in the early 70s, being in the front lines of this thing that they call racial equality. I remember being at 7 years old, from the first grade till then, losing a friend just because he was outside. I grew up in the South, Charleston, South Carolina, outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. My folks are from, what we could say, parts unknown in South Carolina. My grandmother came from a place that the town is named after a slaveholder. Go look up Ladson, South Carolina, and see where that name came from. Ladson. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, again, watch where you get your information from. Just because somebody say they're affiliated or have PhDs, that don't necessarily mean they know what they're talking about. I just presented you case proof evidence that BGS does not know what he's talking about. He's a bitter old man. If y'all want to call somebody bitter and old, that's the label for BGS. He still hadn't gotten over the woman that left him. And until the day they put him in that pine box, this is what he's going to talk about. Right about now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested over on Classic R&B Jams, one of my great DJs, DJ Dreadhead said, is live. They're playing, I think he should be spinning some house music. So if you want to spend the rest of your Thanksgiving evening over there, you're more than welcome to. And I'm not sure, but DJ Ed, he'll be on a little bit later on after that with a soulful house mix. If not, I might jump on the airwaves a little 1 or 2 after DJ said is finished, and if DJ Ed doesn't come on, and take y'all in late into the evening. All right, it depends on what I feel like doing. I ain't got nothing to do tomorrow except relax, so might as well spend the evening listening to some music. All right, Classic R&B Jams. The link is down in the description. Y'all be cool. Remember, watch your 3, your 6, your 9, and the grace of day cost you absolutely nothing, ladies and gentlemen. Say hello to someone. Might change the way they're thinking. Might change the way they're living. You never know. If you walk past them and don't say hello. Try it, folks. It really does work. Y'all be cool. We out.
Look, all you motherfuckers been snitching for him and shit. Now you standing up in here and goddamn it talking about preaching preacher. Fuck that nigga. Fuck that. I'm gonna shoot your ass too, motherfucker. Keep on. You gonna get shot too, nigga. You gonna get shot. God bless the fool, goddammit. God bless the fool. Now, I'm gonna tell y'all something. I'm gonna end this goddamn thing. Look, where's that goddamn money bowl at? Who got that money bowl? We're taking that money right now before you leave this bitch. We ain't leaving out here for free, motherfucker. Yeah. Y'all know the motherfucker ain't no good. You want, look,